Navy, we obviously take our responsibilities in the Southern Command area of responsibility very seriously, and Admiral Fowler has at his disposal try this again with English, at his disposal capabilities to help secure our interests and to meet our commitments in that part of the world, and I think I'd leave it at that. Zoe.
NSA, which is a military agency.
This is your way of saying, Kirby, you have to answer this question. You cannot punt on this one. Well done.
NSA spied on the French and German governments for years using Danish underwater cables. And the French government and the German government are demanding explanations to US. Do you have any explanation to give them?
I'm not going to talk about intelligence matters.
Okay.
We value our allies very, very deeply, and I'm not going to speak to these press reports, and I'm certainly not going to get into intelligence issues.
Yeah, it's not press report, it's the French president and the German chancellor.
I know. I've seen the press reports of their comments. I'm not going to speak to intelligence matters.
Okay. I have another question. I don't know if you saw the press reports last week about the U.S. troops charged with guarding nuclear weapons in Europe, and they were trying to memorize the location of the live nuclear weapons using flashcards, according to the investigative site Bellingcat, which is very knowledgeable and serious.
Yeah.
So do you have any comment on that?
What I would tell you is that the Department of the Air Force is investigating the suitability of information shared via study flashcards. For security reasons, I think you know, we don't discuss past or current security protocols. All U.S. weapons are safe and secure. And I think, as you also know, it's U.S. policy not to neither confirm or deny the presence or absence of nuclear weapons at any specific location.
Okay. So an investigation is...
By the Air Force, yes.
Thanks.
Okay, on the phones, Jeff Schogel.
Thank you. Following up on my colleague's question, retired General Flynn has argued for overthrowing the Democratic government. Will the Defense Department recall him to service and court-martial him for treason?
Jeff, I know of no such plans to do so.
Is it within the Defense Department's ability?
I mean, without speaking to this specific case, retired officers can be brought back onto active duty to face disciplinary charges if it's warranted. It's very, very rare. And again, I'm not aware of any effort or interest in doing it in this case. Yeah, Janie.
Thank you, John. I have a question about the United States defensive role for the South Korea. How will the end of the missile guidelines on the South Korea affect the U.S. defense role for the South Korea? Will there be any change to the U.S. role for the defense role for the
I'm not aware of any changes, Janie. Nothing about this changes the alliance between South Korea and the United States or our commitments to that alliance, which, as you know, is a defensive alliance.
But you have any schedule to reduce the defense role for the South Korea because of you lift the missile guidelines? They again have
I know of no such changes in the offing.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Barb, did you have your hand up?
I did. I wanted to follow up on a couple of things. On Iranian weapons, without addressing this particular ship that lots of people appear to be tracking, what you didn't address is what is U.S. policy about allowing the presence of Iranian missiles or weapons in this hemisphere? And I was mystified by your answer that Southcom has a capability because they don't maintain a standing anti-missile capability. They request assets when they need them. So what actually is the policy about allowing Iranian weapons in this hemisphere.
Maybe I was inarticulate. What I meant to say was that the Southern Command certainly has the ability to look after our interests in that part of the world. They are different needs and different interests in that part of the world than they are perhaps in Central Command or in the Indo-Pacific. And I'm not aware of a specific policy regarding this potential reported eventuality. I don't want to get into...
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about what is the U.S. government's willingness to allow Iranian weapons in this hemisphere?
I'd have to take the question, Barb. I have to take the question.
And can I also ask, going back to the question on translators, Afghans that need to get out of the country, you and the secretary and the chairman have now all publicly talked about it. You said there was some urgency and planning, but yet the White House hasn't said that. So is it sort of time to just say publicly that, yes, you're going to do it? Because the secretary and the chairman appear very much to be saying that, even though the White House hasn't.
By it, you're referring to evacuations.
Have a program to help Afghans get out of Afghanistan if they feel they're in danger from the Taliban.
I think we've all been consistent here, Barb. The focus right now is on the special immigrant visa program, and that is the purview of the State Department. Everybody shares a sense of obligation to those who have helped us for so long. We are a planning organization. We plan for all manner of contingencies to include non-combatant evacuation operations around the world, and that would include Afghanistan. But there has been no tasking to do that, and as I said last week, if we are so tasked, if that is so ordered, the Department of Defense would be capable of doing it and doing it effectively.
And the very last follow-up, and I hesitate to be asking this, but on the unmanned aerial phenomena report, because many of these reported sightings have been from military personnel, and because you said that DOD is assisting with this effort, can you tell us anything about what you have been able to rule out? Have you been able to rule out the science fiction scenario of any kind of life form? Is this mechanical phenomena? Is this perhaps atmospheric? Can you just say, for people who are interested, that you have ruled out there's any life forms out there?
I would be getting ahead of a report that hasn't been submitted to Congress yet, and that's never a good idea for a spokesman in this town. So I don't want to get ahead of the report. And I refer you to DNI to speak to that.
That you can rule out at this point.
I am not going to get ahead of a report that this agency is not writing in response to a congressional mandate. I would refer you to DNI for more detail about that. Thanks. I think I've got time for one more, and I apologize for the time crunch today, but I do have to get going here. Paul Shinkman from U.S. News.
Hi, John. 2 questions, please. Moderna this morning applied for full FDA clearance for its coronavirus vaccine. Are there any plans in place now for making that vaccine mandatory if it's approved? And how does that proceed if and when it is in fact approved?
I know of no plans to make the vaccine, vaccine or any of the others that we're using mandatory. And I think as you saw from the briefing we gave a week or so ago, our acceptance numbers are actually high and consistent with the American population. So I don't have anything to speak to with respect to the possibilities of making it mandatory. There are no plans to do that right now.
And then one last question on the Pentagon's contributions to the UFO report. I've been speaking with a series of experts abroad who have expressed some concern about similar investigations in other countries having too much of a military focus and not enough input from civilian scientists. I wonder if that's a concern that the Pentagon has shared and whether that came up at all during this most recent review process.
We're participating in a DNI-led study, again, on mandated by Congress. We're providing context and information that we have on these phenomena, and our focus is on supporting the DNI's efforts to to produce this report. That's where our focus is, and again, that's our lane. That's our place to be in, is to provide the kind of context that we have, the information that we have to help the DNI produce this report for Congress. Okay, thanks everybody. Ma'am, you've been very patient. I'll take one more. I know I've got to get out of here, but you've been very patient.
Yes, I'll follow up on the Israeli Defense Minister visit on Thursday.
Yes.
Is it upon an invitation from Washington?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it planned before, or it came?
No,
after?
I think the Secretary and Minister Gantz talked about this. The Secretary extended an invitation to Minister Gantz to visit D.C. on the first time that they spoke after he took office, and then COVID just did not permit this. The issue of a visit to D.C. came up again when we were in Israel a few weeks ago. The Secretary again reiterated his invitation, and in the context of the many conversations that they've had over the last couple of weeks, it was again discussed, and so yes, he's coming at the invitation of the Secretary.
It's not related to the Israeli Prime Minister's statement earlier today that he will do everything to eliminate a nuclear threat, even in the cost of a break with the United States?
No, I can assure you the specifics of this visit for this week, the idea of it was discussed months ago, and last week when the Secretary and the Minister spoke again, they were able to sort of round out a day. But the visit that I'm talking about today, that I'm announcing today, has nothing to do with comments made today in Israel. This was something that the Secretary and Minister Gantz have been talking about for quite some time.
Thank you.
Okay? Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I got to rush.